Well, we've got quite a lot of old things in this museum, some very old. So I thought today we'd go back to the Iron Age. There's quite a lot in. It's interesting, but what we have to bear in mind is that in these days, you didn't just go and switch on the iron, you had to get the range fire lit in quite a bit of time before it was hot enough to heat these irons. We'll start with this one. That I always consider the most common iron. Everyone had one of these. And this was just a sad iron, or flat iron. They just sat on the range, get a bit of heat in them. Better if they had two, they could interchange. But when you were using those, then you had to have one or two things to go with them, like an iron holder. That stopped you burning your fingers. And it was also something for the young ladies to practice on when they were starting to do sewing in their schools. Always made iron holders. That is a similar one, but it's got the convex bottom. And I'm told that was for ironing stiff collars. And quite a work of art in that, but it's got a neat little job. These came in several sizes, so they did too. These are other little iron. These are box irons, but it had a little block of iron inside, and this was actually put into the fire to heat it. Some would have a little gadget to pick them up with, to pop them back in there, and that would heat the iron. There's another one a bit larger. No, there's another one. That's got a bigger chunk of iron in it. Still with the irons that went on top of the grate, we had ones like this. This is always known as a Mrs. Potts iron. And with this you could have one iron, one handle, and 3 irons. So you could interchange them to keep them hot enough to carry on with the work. And that's another similar sort of thing. You could take the handle off, put it back on quite easily. So that's one type. This jabby, this was used more in countries where there's no electricity whatsoever. And it was running charcoal. So you could put your charcoal into there, burning, and smoke came out the chimney. There was a vent at the back, like a ventilation hole. And with these you were continually swinging it to get a current of air going in to keep the charcoal glowing or burning. So it's quite a weight, charcoal. So we've got the flat irons, charcoal irons. They then went on considerably to other means of heating. This was methylated spirits. It did have a detachable handle. Handle with here was wood. That must have helped a lot. So the meth went in there, came off. Plenty of ventilation, keep it going. And I did hear of one lady who would only iron if she could stand in front of an open window, because these could burst into flames. And if that happened, she wanted to be able to get rid of it rather quickly. A little bit more advanced on that with the gas irons. Some of these are quite heavy. Now this one was a gas iron. It was called Clark's Fairy Prince. Now what on earth the connection with the fairy prince is with this thing, I do not know. But That's where the gas went in, and it was lit and heated. That's another type of gas iron. You know what that did. And so is this one. This has got a bit of protection for your knuckles. This is a bit later, I'm sure much later. You've heard of Tilly lamps. Well, this was a Tilly iron. And with Tilly lamps and Tilly irons, they ran on paraffin, and it was so you could pump the paraffin up to get the pressure for this one to operate. It looks quite modern. Trivets. Some of those were, you know, quite attractive ones. When that was quite hot, you just couldn't put it down anywhere. You had to put it onto something. And with this type of iron also, if it got such a bad condition underneath, they would clean them up with emery cloth and all sorts of things. But if it got too bad, you could get a plate to fit onto the bottom. That clipped on, and that would be quite a satisfactory, fits well, a temporary fix. Well, this chappie, this was a Tailors iron. They came in 3 sizes: a goose, a gander, and a gosling. I don't know which this is, probably a gosling, I would have thought. And this chappie, made by Thurston's, means something to some people, but for ironing billiard tables. That little chap, your guess is as good as mine as what you ironed with that. So quite delicate work.